Anybody smell that? It's trade deadline season. Welcome to the Just Baseball Show. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, and as you are listening to this, we are about 7 days from the deadline, July 30th at 6 p.m. Eastern. You can't trade for the best player in baseball and not give up any of your good prospects anymore, or at least that's what every fan wants. This is part one of a 6-part episode series doing a trade deadline preview for every division. Today, Arm Layton, I am Peter Apple. We are going to start with the American League East, the Yankees, the Orioles, the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Red Sox, and we're going to work through every division up until the trade deadline. Make the Just Baseball Show your home for trade deadline coverage, and it is all brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Remember, folks, download BetMGM on iOS or Android and use code JUSTBASEBALL. Why? First bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. So if you place a wager after using code JUSTBASEBALL and it were to lose, you'll get that amount you put on that bet back in bonus up to $1,500. And if you win, congratulations. You want to bet? That's awesome. I wish I could win more bets. But remember, gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older. Terms and conditions apply. Aram, how excited are you from a scale of 9 to 10 for me to throw about 30 mock trades at you and you to just call me crazy for probably the next hour and a half?
8. No, I'm kidding. I'll go like 9-7. I'm ready to go. Sometimes I hate crushing your dreams on like a Yankees trade. Then I feel a little bad. Like, no, you're gonna have to give up more than that.
Be honest. You don't feel bad at all. You're just saying that. You don't feel bad.
Sometimes I feel a little bad. A little bad. Also, what does trade deadline season smell like?
Fresh.
Fresh.
You know when you hit the beach and you can kind of smell the seawater, but you're not quite in the ocean yet?
Yes.
Freshly mowed lawn. Right after it's done, just it smells fresh.
You were way more on it than I thought. I was just gonna catch you. And I have no idea.
No. Like laundry right out of the dryer. It's a little warm. It just feels good. It feels clean. That's what trade deadlines season smells like.
I like it. I feel that, and it's here. Like it's one of those things where I kept saying, "Oh, it's a little too early. It's a little too early." Oh, it's in a week. So it is time to dive into this, and it's a perfect timing on the series to do this. And it's fun. Of course, not all these things are going to happen. It gives you a little bit of an idea, though, of what teams need in general. They could go get another player to fill that need that we didn't talk about, but it just gives you that idea, and then you can go kind of pursue your own mock trades as well based on some of the things that we highlight in terms of the needs based on the numbers of just how these teams have been performing. And then on the seller side, it can be a little bit harder to know who's going to actually move what pieces exactly, but we can talk about, what we would probably do if we were in their position, and what those returns could look like for your favorite team if they're unfortunately a seller.
Yes. So what Arm and I are going to do is we're going to go through every single team. We're going to identify if that team is a buyer or a seller. If they are a seller, they're not necessarily going to have needs, but they will have trade chips that they can send off. So for example, the Blue Jays, we identified them as a probable seller. So we collected a ton of trade chips, and of those trade chips, I have a lot of landing destinations that I think make sense. A team like the Orioles, obvious buyer. We got a couple of mock trades that fit their needs. So for the buyers, we're going to identify needs and fill those with mock trades. For sellers, we're going to identify trade chips that they currently have, how they can get better, and what it kind of looks like, maybe not just this year, but down the line a little bit. But Aram, before we get there, we have a couple of headlines that I want to hit off the top that actually may influence some decisions for the trade deadline. Number one, and a shocking thing that we just heard before we press the record button, James Paxton, DFA'd by the Los Angeles Dodgers. It was surprising just because he's coming off a decent start of Sunday Night Baseball. He's been a pretty solid starter for the Dodgers this year. Now, the underlying metrics, not ideal, but he's been a solid starter for the Dodgers, and he gets DFA'd. Now, the Dodgers have an opportunity to trade him before the deadline, maybe get back something for him. But really, it's because Tyler Glasnow is getting activated soon. Clayton Kershaw is getting activated soon. And now they have so many young starters, and then potentially they're going to trade for starters as well. It just felt like James Paxton was kind of the odd man out. Is that the whole crux of the story, or you got more?
Yeah, I think it also kind of shows how down bad they are for just pitching reinforcement right now. I'm sure it wasn't the first thing they wanted to do. I'm sure they'd rather not do that, but they need to get another arm involved, and they need, especially the bullpen, just being taxed the way that it has. I'm hoping that it also bodes well for Kershaw. You know, of course, they're going to kind of keep that situation close to their vests about how he's looking, how he's feeling, how he's throwing. I'm hoping that the fact that they DFA'd Paxton means that they feel pretty good about Kershaw's ability to come back, or as well as Walker's too. So I'm hoping that that's the other side of it. But it was very surprising, and there's still going to be, I think, plenty of teams that would love to add Paxton to the fold, especially down the stretch here where you need guys that can eat innings. He hasn't been a disaster. I agree, the underlying metrics aren't great, but it was very surprising. I think of all the moves that we're gonna talk about Ty France in a second. Like this, I think was more surprising than that, given that pitching is just, so valuable, even if you're a mid-fours guy.
And a couple of teams in the American League East may need pitching, and they may not need to trade anything of real value in order to get a proven starter who, yes, is not going to put your team on James Paxton's back and walk you to the playoffs, but he can at least be a piece that isn't a bad piece that takes you away from the playoffs. That's kind of where James Paxton lies. But we aren't done. Another surprising DFA, but when you look at the offensive numbers, it's not that surprising. Ty France, designated for assignment by the Seattle Mariners. He's getting up there in age a little bit. He doesn't run and he doesn't field, so he has to hit. And arm, he just hasn't hit. He had a little spurt there in May, but overall, it's been pretty concerning. And at this point, if you're not hitting, there's no place to play you. I understand why they DFA'd him, but I had more faith in Ty France long term, and just hasn't worked out.
Anytime a former All-Star gets DFA'd, it's a surprise, no matter, whether it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it may be. It's not like it was 10. But it's really just been a straight arrow downwards since the 2021 season, where he was that All-Star, 3.2 FWAR, absolutely mashed at 291 with a 129 WRC plus. But then next year, a little bit diminished from that, but still really solid. And then last year was a 1-win player, barely above league average offensively. And to your point, like, if he's not hitting, and this year he's been slightly below league average, it's just he's kind of a suck of value there, because you either have to put him at first, or he's going to DH, and that's it. And if you're not mashing at first base, like, it just ain't worth it. So it's tough for him. Hopefully, he can move somewhere else, go to another team, get a fresh start, and try to turn things around, because obviously the guy can hit, and it's not like he's been a total disaster, right? Like, it's a 96 WRC plus, so maybe he can catch on somewhere else that doesn't have to worry as much about what they're getting from an premium offensive position, and just give him the opportunity. But I get it from a Mariners perspective. Like, that's a position where, especially when your offense hasn't been performing, you need slug. I think they're going to give Locklear some consistent run there. Tyler Locklear has earned that big power hitting prospect for them that got a little cameo earlier. Will get some more run now, and just seems to have a little bit more upside. If not, if Locklear doesn't look great over the next week, maybe at the deadline they go out and get a first baseman or something, because that's the one thing is first baseman's going to be a little bit cheaper to acquire. Like, you could take a flyer on a couple of different just, defensively limited guys that probably wouldn't be too expensive, and would be an upgrade over what you had with Ty France.
And potentially a team in the American League East could use him at the deadline, or maybe even sooner. Last one before we start the trade deadline preview for the American League East. The Atlanta Braves sign Whit Merrifield and call up Nacho Alvarez. We talked about it yesterday. Ozzy Albies went down, got his thumb, his wrist, his whole hand, just whatever was going on at the end of his arm is screwed up after he got banged into. Projected to miss 8 weeks. That's a killer for the Braves, who definitely could use his bat. But they bring in Whit Merrifield, who is a Philly for the first half of the season. I always love those kind of moves.
Yes.
That's I don't even know if that's purely, we just love Whit Merrifield, the player, or what did you learn in that Phillies club?
Yeah.
What do they got cooking there? And then, of course, Nacho Alvarez, who we've floated in a couple of mock trades, big trades that the Braves could end up going with. But now he's going to be helping the big league roster.
Yeah, now they need him. And he's going to be a guy that could fill in at shortstop even, just depending on what their situation is there. But I think in the short term, it's obvious he's going to play second base. He's an average shortstop, but I think he could be a really solid second baseman for them. But Alvarez, just another one of those Braves prospects that Never quite makes it onto a top 100 list. We're just as starting to scrape his way onto a list, and then they end up debuting and end up being big league pieces before they even have a chance to be a highly touted prospect, because that seems to be the way the Braves do it. He's 21, already got up to AAA, and he's really hot right now. Over his last 30 games, he's slashing 331, 440, 559. He's a hit over power guy, but the power has really ticked up of late. 7 homers in those last 30 games. He's a guy that I think you're going to see people love the way he grinds out at bats. Like Peter, you're going to say, oh, that's a gritty AB. Like he's one of those guys. He
Love that.
doesn't chase. He makes a lot of contact and he spoils tough pitches really well. So like he's not going to light the world on fire, but they just need someone that can get in there, hold it down, and just not be a liability there. And defensively, he's going to be good. He gives you a little bit of speed, and he's going to give you good ABs. So I think it's fortunate for the Braves. I think there was one position that they were going to have a guy go down. It's the one spot that they really can plug and play immediately. And I'm excited to see what Nacho does. But the nice part is, if he just isn't quite ready, you also have that insurance policy of Whit Merrifield, who should also just be a nice little bench piece for them too.
Absolutely. And before we get into the trade deadline preview for the American League East, I want to do a quick reminder about our National League Central Stadium tour. It's going to be presented by us and, of course, Snapback Sports. So the hosts, Aram, Jack, and I, and some other great folk here at Just Baseball are going to be attending 5 games in 5 days at each of the National League Central ballparks, and we really want you guys to come to the games with us. The link to purchase tickets is in the episode description, as well as our link tree. Use code JustBaseball for $5 off your purchase. We're going to be doing giveaways at each stop that you don't want to miss. And for the schedule, July 29th, Braves Brewers. So we'll be in Milwaukee. July 30th, we go to St. Louis for Rangers versus Cardinals. July 31st, Chicago Cubs take on the Cincinnati Reds. We will be there at Great American Ballpark. August 1st, Cardinals are taking on the Cubs at Wrigley. We will be there. August 2nd, that's where we end our road trip at PNC in Pittsburgh to watch the Pirates take on the Diamondbacks. Come to one of those games. Come to all of those games. If you're a freak, that'd be amazing. If we could get one person to go all 5 of the games
Oh
with
my
us,
gosh.
that would be absolutely electric. But come through, get your tickets to the game, hang out with us beforehand, participate in the giveaways. We're going to be giving away a bunch of shit. We're going to be hanging out and watching baseball. That's it. Grab a ticket with us. It's going to be awesome. Code Just Baseball, $5. You can find the link in our episode description. We truly hope that we'll see all of you guys there.
And in that, if you click on that link, it'll take you to the article that'll let you know kind of what you get in addition to your tickets. We've worked with some partners to make sure that you're getting some value delivered there as well. And most importantly, this is just really a way for us to connect with the audience. Also, we've talked about how I wanted to go to all 30 baseball stadiums with my dad since I was a kid. So there's another really fun way to check off a couple more. PNC, I'm very excited to check off there. But I love the timing of it too, because you can come hang out with us. Basically, we can do an in-person mailbag episode because it's going to be deadline time, and we're going to want to be chopping it up about that at the game. We might have some trades go down like right as we're doing this tour, and we might see debuts for players and new teams. Please, Brewers, have a new player when we're there. I would love that. Please try. You have the Braves as well, who could do some things. A couple other teams that could have some guys added to the fold. So that whole implication of things is really fun too, where you might have a chance to catch a guy making his debut with a new ball club. And also, we'll just be chopping it up about the deadline, because there's going to be moves going on while we're at the game. Like, it's going to be going down while we're at the game. So that should be a great time.
Absolutely. So just another reminder, the link is in the episode description. Code Just Baseball for $5 off your tickets. And remember, not just tickets, tons more. Come with us. It's going to be a blast. All right, Arm, you ready?
Let's
The
do it.
trade deadline preview for every team in the American League East. We're going to start at the top with the Baltimore Orioles. They come in as we are recording. Of course, we haven't factored in Monday's games yet. Yankees already did beat the Rays, but that's for another time. The Orioles are 60-39 as we press the record button with a plus 91 run differential. I think both of us are pretty aligned. They are buyers, correct?
Yeah, I would imagine so, unless they want to revert back to what we were dealing with a little while ago. It sounds like this is they're not only buyers, I think they don't even have a choice, because they're going to have such a ridiculous 40-man crunch if they don't make a couple moves and trade from that ridiculous Norfolk Tide team.
Yeah, this is going to be fun because they could be one of the few teams in baseball when we do these trade deadline previews that aren't just buyers. They're mega buyers because they have the best farm system and they do have holes that they need to fill here. And those holes that I have identified is I would like them to get another bullpen arm. Outside of Craig Kimbrell, Yenier Cano, and Jacob Webb, I think there are issues with this bullpen. They're 12th in bullpen ERA. Kimbrell, I've said what I needed to say about Craig Kimbrell. Yes, he's looked great during the regular season, but I'm telling you, high leverage, playoff time. I hope he performs. But if I'm an Orioles fan, I would want another closer in the wings. I love Yenier Cano, and Jacob Webb is just a little bit unproven, but he's still a good reliever. But I still think that the Orioles would be a better team if they use their surplus of prospects in order to go get a reliever. And I also think that they need a starting pitcher. You
Mhm.
have Corbin Burns, you have Grayson Rodriguez, you have Albert Suarez, and you have Dean Kramer. With Bradish going down, with Wells going down, with Means going down, I don't think you have enough right now, especially with Cole Irvin being moved to the bullpen. Did you identify any other needs potentially for this team? Because when I look at the offense, I just look at a surplus of prospects who can spot in for anyone who's struggling at the moment. So I wouldn't do a thing to the
Nope.
offense.
Nope. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like this, this offense is cohesive. They clearly work off each other well. And as you mentioned, like why make a trade to try to upgrade a spot or having more insurance there when you literally have built-in insurance? Even if you do go make major trades for pitching, they still have several guys in the upper minors who could plug right in if someone does happen to go down.
So I'm going to shoot over a couple of mock trades to my guy Arm here. And if we have any new listeners, this is for the new listeners. The people who have been here for a long time, they understand. I'm not a prospect guy. I'm just not. I don't follow prospects like Arm and Jack do. So if I'm coming to you with a deal that might be a little bit too much, or potentially those specific prospects don't exactly fit into that system or where they need them to, Arm is going to tell me. So I'm going to bring him some mock trades if he has any of his own. Of course, speak up, throw them in there. I'm all for mock trades, but this is a lot of me throwing it over to a more balanced head so I don't go absolutely crazy. Is that fair, Arm?
That's valid. I love it. And it's fun time for me to try to like piece together these packages. I love nothing more than prospects changing hands because you get a whole new fan base that's excited about them and wants to learn about them. So I think as teams are looking to sell pieces or add, like I think people love to just kind of hear what the value may be, and we might not be spot on, but feel like we can get pretty close.
But you know what I just did there, actually? Nobody can now get mad at me because I've already admitted I'm not a prospect guy.
It's
So
all
now
on
I can
me.
actually just be an insane psycho with this because I can fall back on, hey, I don't know your prospects. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No, but for real, I'm going to try my best here. All
I
right.
love it.
So if you are mad, let us know in the YouTube comments. And while you're mad, hit the subscribe button because I'm thinking about my favorite quote from The Big Short. I'm unhappy, or I'm happy when I'm unhappy. A lot of people on the internet kind of feel like
Oh,
that.
100%.
They're
I was
happy
gonna
when they're
say that
unhappy.
pretty
So
pretty rare to get someone subscribing to you as they're pissed. But I mean, if you want to do that, that's great. I would love that. Angry, we'll take them all. We'll take what we can get.
all right, enough stalling. Let's get straight into it. Um, I think the Orioles should trade for Mason Miller, and I have a trade package to do it. Mason Miller, the electric closer from the Oakland A's. We saw him in the All-Star game. He's as good as any reliever in Major League Baseball, and all it takes to know that is watch him get one out, whether it be a strikeout, whether it be a weak grounder. This guy throws absolute fuel, and he's got so many years of control. So, excuse me. This package is going to be massive. And I'm throwing it over to you, Arm. And I don't think it's going to cost any of the big time pieces if they're able to fill in a lot of really, really solid prospects, add more of them in order to get a relief pitcher. Because I love Mason Miller. I think he's amazing. But what do we talk about all the time with relievers? It's such a volatile market. Yes, he looks awesome right now, but things could happen, right? He's already dealt with an arm injury before. He was a starter moving into the bullpen. So I'm not, if the A's want Basayo and they want Jackson Holiday and they want Kobe Mayo, I'm sorry.
It's
If
not
I'm the
happening.
Orioles, I am not giving you them. I can go get other relievers. I can go get other good closers. So if I'm the Orioles, this is what I would offer for Mason Miller, and you tell me if it's not enough. So
Mhm.
this package is Dylan Beavers, Cade Povich, Mac Horvath, and Braylon Tavera. These are 3 top 10 prospects in the Orioles system, plus like a 15 to 20 range guy for a reliever. It's a big package, but the Orioles don't have to give up anybody truly massive. What do you think about that deal?
So repeat that again. It was Beavers.
Beavers, Cade Povich, Mac Horvath, and Braylon Tavera. So we're looking at 2 position players and 2 pitchers, some in the higher levels, some in the lower levels. You get a lot of each in a very good system, and they're all within the top 15 in the Orioles system or around that.
I mean, I would swap Horvath with Connor Norby,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we're cooking.
I feel like, don't we want to use Connor Norby in other deals? Because I have Connor Norby in other deals. Because what I have done here is if I include prospects in one trade, I'm not including them in the other. I'm making it realistic, not just here's a package and we're using multiple guys. No, we're trying to build like Mike Elias would.
Yeah,
So you think that we still have to add Connor Norby to this?
like probably swapping it out for a Horvath. It seems like the A's love the guys that are close to big league ready and just want to like load up their 40 man with just like a bunch of close to big league ready pieces, and that's the volume and type that they like. I will say though, like to add to your point on Mason Miller, like some people might say, why trade Mason Miller? They don't have to, so they have that leverage. But on the other side, it's they probably should because you mentioned the arm injuries. It's been a lot of different nagging issues. And it's gone back for multiple years. And remember, very unique health situation being that he didn't know he was diabetic for a very, very long time. And I was reading something the other day that said based on, I don't know anything about medicine, but like based on the like some of the figures and markers when they did his blood work afterward, they're like, you should have been in a coma. Like, so he's an alien human being that could just overcome anything, which is amazing. But at the same time, like he has had a lot of nagging arm issues, and it feels like that's the one thing that even the freaks of freaks can't seem to avoid is arm issues from time to time. So knowing that, like that does strike down the value a little bit. And to your point, like teams are going to know, hey, like yes, I understand that he's worth that, and that's what you may want, but nobody's going to give that much up for a reliever because you can go get multiple relievers, like you said, that are maybe, not quite as good, but you got 2 of them and you still have probably more capital left. So I don't think they need to go too much more than that, but I do think we don't have to go. I don't think we have to go Horvath, like, or excuse me, don't have to go Norby, but then maybe Fabian. I mean, some people might like Horvath more than Fabian, so I don't think it's too much of a difference there. I think that's close enough. I mean, Beavers is a close to a top 100 caliber player. He's slowed down a lot over the second half, so that's what makes me a little bit nervous. Norby he's just going stale in AAA at this point. 900 OPS. Like that's a guy that I would love to like get out of there, and I know that the A's would love to just put him
Don't
right
worry.
in their
Don't worry.
lineup.
I got Norby in another
Yeah,
trades. Don't worry
yeah,
about
and then I mean I think it's close. I would swap Tavera with Judd Fabian, I think, because Tavera's had a
that.
very down year. Fabian's a plus defensive center fielder who strikes out a lot. Does that sound familiar? They just drafted that. That's Vance Honeycutt. So I would swap Fabian for Tavera because I think Fabian's a better player. And also, the Orioles may not want to sell low on a guy and Tavera, who I loved going into this year. It's just been a disappointment. So I think swap Fabian for Tavera, and I think that elevates it a little bit more. And it's a pretty darn good package.
It's a great package. So the A's, in exchange for Mason Miller, would get Dylan Beavers, Cade Povich, Mac Horvath, and Judd Fabian. Potentially, if let's say we wanted to, because the Orioles, it's very easy to do so because they just have such a surplus of prospects. Let's say we were to put in Norby instead of Fabian. Do we also get Lucas Urseg? Like, can we get Mason Miller and Lucas Urseg in the same deal here?
That would be crazy. I don't know. I mean, I already feel like we're kind of pushing it for Miller. And the thing is, because they want the centerpiece, right? Like they want that centerpiece prospect. And that's the one thing that this deal like kind of lacks. Instead, you have a bunch of solid pieces, but you don't have that centerpiece. I was also thinking, like, is there a way where Stowers gets involved here? Because they need to move that guy too. I mean, what he is the most stuck right now.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I got him in another deal. Don't worry.
Okay.
that's
So
that's the thing is like I'm coming to you with this trade because I don't think the Orioles should trade a centerpiece prospect for
no,
Miller.
no. And
That's
if
the
people
thing.
want to say no, that's fine.
That's
But
fine.
in
Then they
terms
can't
of
get
sheer
Mason Miller.
value,
Yeah.
no one's topping this offer for Mason Miller.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll give up a higher quality prospect, but you're not going to get the value in totality that is being provided here. We're talking about several fringe top 100 guys and several really solid prospects that would be comfortably inside of most top 10s in farm systems, and guys that are high probability big leaguers as well. I mean, Povich would go right into their rotation. Judd Fabian could be in the big leagues by the end of the year. I mean, you're looking at pieces here that, I mean, Beavers could be in the big leagues by the end of the year for them. It would be ridiculous, I think, to assume that they could really do much more than that unless somebody gets really desperate.
Do you think the Orioles would do this? Those four for
I,
Mason Miller? Because it's not a centerpiece, but damn, it's a lot of really good depth here. Like these guys are in the back half of the tens or the teens in the Orioles system, but for the A's system, they'd be some of their better prospects. That's why it does seem like a lot, and that's why I included it without adding a centerpiece to it. But I could totally see Orioles fans in our YouTube comments saying, hey, I don't want to give up 4 prospects for a reliever. And you know what? I would understand. But I think this is what you'd have to do if you don't want to include any of the big guns. And I don't think the Orioles should include a big gun for a reliever. I don't care how good you are. You're a reliever at the end of the day.
yeah, and I think they would do it because there is the hope that, okay, maybe as he builds up and just has a lot of innings under his belt, you can try him again down the line as a starter. But is that something that the A's would want to risk? Because if he struggles as a starter and or gets hurt, God forbid, now the value is destroyed. So like that's something that I think only an acquiring team may try. And it goes the other way too. Do you want to risk that as you just gave up a bunch of assets? I think it's easier to do that and try that when you didn't give up Basayo, Mayo, some of those centerpieces there, and instead gave up a handful of really solid players that, again, I think would be top 5. I mean, several of those guys could be top 5 prospects in some systems. So I think it's a pretty competitive package.
I was about to pat myself on the back. Didn't go too crazy on that one. But this is the trade deadline preview for the Baltimore Orioles. Of course, I have more trades to get into, so I'm not patting myself on the back yet. All right. So, and if we're talking about small time reliever deals, let's say you don't exactly want to get Mason Miller. There's Carlos Estevez out there. There is still Lucas Urseg from the A's. There's Kyle Finnegan from the Nationals. You could easily make trades like that. Like, I didn't think it was worth like coming up with mock trades for like those guys. Like, they're going to cost a decent prospect and a flyer, and you could do that. And
Yep.
that's not a bad angle if you want to invest all of your prospects into starting pitching and just kind of piece together the bullpen. Because, like I said, like I have my worries about Kimbrel, but Cano is still a beast, and Jacob Webb is still great, and they still have other guys in the bullpen who I do respect. I just think if we want to build a World Series bullpen, this is what we do here. But I can understand not
Yep.
wanting to trade for Mason Miller. But here's who I do want to trade for. The Orioles will be acquiring Garrett Crochet this deadline, and in exchange, it's going to cost a lot. I know,
Oh, yeah.
but Garrett Crochet is as good as any pitcher in Major League Baseball right now. And the Orioles do not have a left-handed starter, so they would certainly need one. A lot of talks about Tarek Skubal. I just find it so unbelievable that the Tigers would consider trading him, but this is the next best option here from the left side. So here's the deal. Samuel Basayo, Connor Norby, and Kyle Stowers for Garrett Crochet. It's a lot, but it's Garrett Crochet. And when I look at Samuel Basayo, he could be the next Orioles catcher if the Orioles end up getting priced out of Adley Rutschman. But I just have a feeling that there's no way they let him go. Even if he costs a bunch, that's your guy. Gunner's your guy. Like at some point, you spend money on the big time free agents. And ever since Adley Rutschman came up, you guys don't get swept ever. He is a winning player to his core. Gunnar Henderson, clear MVP candidate. You build around the shortstop and the catcher, premium positions. Those are your guys. I love Basia. We saw him in the futures game. The dude is a literal truck. Like the White Sox are getting an incredible, maybe the best catcher in all of the minor leagues right now. And you get Connor Norby, who again is just sitting in AAA, would be an incredible get. And the White Sox, the reason I added all hitters and didn't include a pitcher, I mean, how many more pitchers do the White Sox need? We saw in the draft. We've just seen that they are just stockpiling arms. Let's get some bats into this system, and we don't have to worry about fits for the White Sox. They need anybody who can hit. So if we're looking at guys who are stuck with the Orioles, and then Basia is the big piece, but damn it, you're getting Garrett Crochet. How's that trade come across to you?
Sounds good. I think it might even require a tad more,
Wow,
maybe.
that's
So
crazy.
crazy. And normally I'm usually like slowing you down, and you're like, Orm, they're prospects. Like you got to give up
Get
to
rid of
get
them.
a star player, which is valid. But thinking about the leverage and the situation here, and how many teams are just gonna be lining up to potentially be able to add Crochet. I mean, I like Norby a lot, but he is 24. He's not going to give you a ton of value defensively. It does help that he can play left and second base, and a guy that will go right into their lineup, whether it's in left or second base. The key get is Basia, who's a top 10 prospect in baseball, like you said. And it does seem like if they're going to move somebody, he is of the blue chippers the most likely to go. Mayo is a guy that I think will end up helping them down the stretch. I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
how they'll consistently find ABs for him, but he's going to get up there and he's going to be in the big leagues down the stretch this year. And then he's going to be a guy that is a piece for them. They want him to be Austin Riley, and I think he can be Austin Riley.
He
So
just
like,
has to be their third baseman. Like
yeah,
I'm not trading him. He's their
no,
third baseman for the future. That's it. Like it
he's
would
already
have to be
ready.
to
Like,
trade Mayo for me. It would have to be for Scooble, and then anybody else like no. And I don't think the Tigers are going to do it anyway.
exactly. So that's the difference there. Whereas Basia a little bit further off, hasn't been the best year, but it's important to note how young he is. He's 19 at the start of the year and playing in the upper minors already. But I think you got to either throw in a slight. I don't think you have to go slightly better second piece, given that you're leading with nobody. There's not going to be a better prospect traded at the deadline than Samuel Basallo if he is moved. There probably hasn't been a better prospect traded in a little bit, maybe dating back to the Soto deal if you really look at that. So I would say throw in one more arm, like just one arm for good measure, and it's nothing sexy, but like throw in Luis De Leon, or I think you throw in Luis De Leon, and we've got a pretty solid package here.
Like yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, like I mean, this guy threw 12 innings last year and 54 innings in 2021 and didn't play in 2022 because of an injury. And like, I'm already giving you Basayo, Norby, and Stowers. Like, I'm coming to it from the Orioles' perspective, too. This guy is not playoff proven, right? We're going to talk about a pitcher. I have at least a pitcher going to a team who's playoff proven and why I want him over somebody else. If we're talking about an innings limit, like, how many more innings do we have in this arm? Now, I
That's
know he
that's
has
the
years of control. I know he's young. I know he's absolutely electric. That's why I'm willing to give you a top 10 prospect in baseball. I'm willing to give you another top 100 guy, and potentially Kyle Stowers is a top 100 guy. Like you're getting 3 top 100 guys for a guy who's never thrown more than 55 innings in a season outside of this year, and he just started pitching. Now, Chris Getz of the White Sox can say, exactly. His arm's
yeah.
as fresh as humanly possible. And if I'm Michael S., I'm like, I don't know how to combat that very well. But what I will say is, it's a question mark. I'm not getting Scooble. Like this package, yes, would need more in order to get Tarek Scooble. Just absolutely dominant, has at least thrown 100 innings before, and looks to be filling innings at a better rate right now than Garrett Crochet is. But the potential of Garrett Crochet is unbelievable. Especially, I'd love to get more lefties in this Orioles rotation because lefties face righties, and righties, good luck with left field in Camden when Garrett Crochet is on the mound. That's another thing that I got cooking here. I really want a lefty here. I think this is enough. Like, this is an enormous package.
I mean, it's strong. It's strong for sure. And the other interesting aspect of it is, Crochet. I think that the word is like, okay, if I get traded and I'm gonna push way past my career high in innings, I want some financial security. So there seems to be a little bit of like you may need to extend him
Yeah.
too. I mean, you don't have to, but I think it's going to be kind of an aspect of it too, which we saw the Dodgers do that with Glass now. We're seeing that happen a little bit more But you'll have to pay him as well. So that may make teams a bit more cautious, I think, knowing that he's going to expect that financial security as well, which could drive the value down slightly. I do think that's a pretty solid package. We could keep it at that because Stowers, again, he's not a prospect anymore per se because of his big league service time at this point, but he essentially is just another guy that might as well be. I think you could look at him as a top 10 prospect in a really strong system, and a guy that I think when he's right and healthy looks like someone that is a top 100 talent. And we've seen him continue to mash in AAA. He looked pretty good in his big league stints earlier this year. So that is a solid third piece.
If the White Sox say we're still a little bit too far away and Norby is big league ready and Stowers is big league ready, maybe we want more of a Basayo type, not to that level of talent, but just kind of a younger guy, right? Builds through their system. Could potentially the White Sox say, I love the trade. I think it's fair, but I just kind of want to get somebody younger than Kyle Stowers, who would be the guy then to fill into that trade that still makes sense for them. Maybe it's two younger prospects instead of Stowers. I don't know, but I could see the White Sox wanting to go that direction. Like, we don't need your 25-year-old outfielder, you know?
I think it's a great question. Of course, they probably want Bradfield. I'd imagine that's not where they'd want to go because that's the Orioles because that's a little bit more expensive there. But on the younger, like he's younger, he's not young, but Mac Horvath to me is a player that is going to develop a little bit slower than others. So yeah, he's 23, but I think he's a guy that you can be patient on and dream on upside. He can play all over the diamond. He's fast. He hits the ball hard. So like Horvath could be a guy that's a candidate there, and then adding in like a De Leon or one other piece to kind of even it out. But that's the one thing with this farm system now. They're reloading it on the lower levels, but at the same time, like a lot of these guys are a little bit on the older side, which is fine, but you should cash in now.
There any other players that you would recommend that the Orioles getting? Like, I think if they want to buy low on somebody, let's say they don't want to give up the farm, they don't want to trade, Samuel Basayo in order to get Crochet. So they say, all right, let's go bargain hunting because we still have Corbin Burns, we still have Grayson Rodriguez. Like, we don't need an absolute ace, and we still feel that we can win. I was thinking potentially go call up the Reds, Frankie Montas.
Yeah.
Potentially a guy who's going to be a free agent after the year, experience in the American League East, albeit not great experience, but still experience in the American League East, can be a good pitcher. Maybe just needs a little bit of a change of scenery. I'm sure getting out of Great American Ballpark could help. That was a player that I thought he's not going to cost much and he's going to make your team better.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think Eric Fetty.
Yeah.
He's probably gonna get mocked to too many teams. That's gonna be like the guy that's probably one of
That's
the
what I was
him
thinking.
and Tanner
Like, I was
Scott.
kind of saving him. Flaherty too. Like, I was kind of saving these guys because I didn't want to just keep trading the same guys over and over again. Like, I wanted to elect a star and like trade him to one team. And then like, well, he's already been traded. Kind of that aspect of it.
No, I'm with you. I think, and then Tanner Scott's going to be the same thing where it's like he's going to be mocked to every single team because he's good and he can go to a lot of different teams. It would be a little bit of a buy high, but because of he's outperforming his peripherals. But like we've been saying that for a little bit now. Tyler Anderson could be worth a shot just because you want a lefty if you don't want to spend big. The Angels will probably take some guy that was highly ranked like 6 years ago. So, they'll probably love Stowers actually. Stowers might be too young. But I think that's one that makes some sense too. But yeah, that's the thing though, is it starts to drop off pretty significantly, especially because what are the odds that they trade in division? I think Bassett and Kikuchi would make a lot of sense, but do you want to help the Blue Jays? I don't think the Blue Jays would care as much on the other side of helping the Orioles because those guys are going to be free agents sooner rather than later. But that's the thing is I don't think the Orioles would want to give them their prospects and help them out there. So it seems like that those guys probably make the most sense.
So Baltimore Orioles, we just sent you Mason Miller and we sent you Garrett Crochet.
I just thought of one more too. Andrew Heaney. If the Rangers keep stinking, Heaney, another lefty, could make some sense. It's been throwing pretty well this year. 3.6 ERA. I mean, that's a guy that could fit too.
AL East experience, albeit not great AL East experience, but damn it, AL East
don't let him throw in Yankee Stadium. That's it.
All right, we're going to move to the New York Yankees. Arm, I think they're going to buy. Do you agree?
I believe so.
I
hope Cashman does nothing, so you lose your mind. But I do think they're going to be pretty aggressive.
So I went pretty deep into some deadline research for the New York Yankees. Absolute shocker. Um, and I came up with a couple of needs. Third base. We need one. We need one badly. Now, Yankee fans will say, well, we also need a second baseman. No, we don't. Glaber is our second baseman. I know he's been annoying. I know he hasn't been hitting this year, and I know the errors are annoying. But at the end of the day, if you trade him, you are not going to get the value that you want. Last trade deadline, there were talks of Glaber Torres for Pablo Lopez. That shouldn't happen anymore. Now, I know he's going to be a free agent. We might lose him anyway, but still, I got to hope that Glaber is going to turn it around at some point. I'm not as motivated about DJ LeMahieu anymore. I'm just not. And I know we had a home run today as we're recording. No more JD Davis. And Oswaldo Cabrera cannot be your third baseman. A 73 WRC plus from the position this year, Arm.
Oh.
Only teams worse are the Pirates and the White Sox. We need a third baseman. Now it's tough because this deadline is not going to have a lot of third basemen. So I got to be unique here with some of my asks. But if we're talking about more needs, I want 2 more bullpen arms. Love Clay Holmes. Luke Weaver has been fantastic. Tommy Canley's a dog. Gets dicey after that. Michael Tonkin has been weirdly amazing. That's awesome, but we got to get rid of Caleb Ferguson. So, and Yankee fans are going to say, well, we need a starting pitcher. It's the same thing with Glaber Torres. Like, yes. Do I want Skubal? Do I want Crochet? Does that make me feel good? Yes. Do I want to leverage the farm when we have Garrett Cole, when we have Rodon, when we have Heel and Stroman and Nestor and Clark Schmidt is going to come back? This is your rotation.
Yeah.
You got to run with it. Like, yes, I could be the Yankee fan and say, oh, this is my mock trade for Tarek Skubal. Oh, this is my mock trade for, like, what does Eric Fetty actually do for this rotation? We have 5 Eric Fettys. And then you have Garrett Cole. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to trade prospects in order to get different versions of the current Yankees. I want to upgrade at positions of need. And I know Yankees baseball has not been great, but these are truly the positions of need that I see with the New York Yankees. I don't see a need in the starting rotation. And I know we've been linked to Jazz Chisholm. No.
Yeah.
No. No. We're going to get Dominguez back at some point. And Grisham, like, Yankee fans hate him, and I get it. He has played not great center field defense, which is so shocking to me. And his only hits are home runs. Like, he'll run into one every other, I was going to say every other week. It's more than that. It's like every other 3 weeks, I guess. But I've seen him get on a hot streak at the playoffs, and he's a veteran. And I think when the lights are actually turned on right now, he is going to be a fine 4th outfielder. So knowing that, I don't think that we need to trade prospects in order to get an outfielder. So I'm not going to trade for Bellinger. I'm not going to trade for Jazz Chisholm. I'm running it with Judge, Verdugo, and Stanton. Trent Grisham as the 4th outfielder with Dominguez coming back.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm on the right path here with the Yankees, or do you think there's more needs that I haven't identified?
No, I'm with you. I mean, what it's going to require to upgrade, quote unquote, the rotation is going to be so significant that you're not going to be able to upgrade some of the other positions the way that you want. I'd rather just fortify the bullpen, like you said, because at the end of the day, like if the Yankees are going to go anywhere, it's not even just going to be because of the arm that they had at the deadline. They're going to need Cole to be Cole. They're going to need Stroman to be Stroman. They're going to need Rodon to be Rodon, and even Nestor to be Nestor. So like, it's you're not going to be able to fully put that rotation over the top. I think that rotation can actually put itself over the top. Where I don't think I don't think it can take care of itself is the offense. To your point, like even if certain guys turn it around, I still think this offense is a bit deficient because you hope that Stanton comes back and plays the way that he was playing in the beginning, but you also know that he gets banged up and slows down. Rizzo, you don't know if you're going to get him back. And then, yeah, I do think that Verdugo can swing it better and Glaber can swing it better, but we're so deep into the season now that I don't think you could just fully count on those guys picking it up. Volpe as well. Like this lineup needs something where I think the rotation, like it can just get rolling as these guys, Garrett Cole shakes off the Ross and some of these other guys just hopefully get hot. So I agree. I think the offense is honestly as top heavy as we've seen it in a while with the Yankees. And I think that's where you got to look immediately to go try to make a move. But I'm with you on the outfield. Like Dominguez, it sucks that he strained the oblique. as he's coming back from, the Tommy John thing, but that's kind of common, especially for a guy that generates that much force. Like the oblique wasn't ready. They were probably so focused on getting the elbow ready that the rest of his body wasn't quite there yet. You know that he can perform. He looked great in the big leagues when we had that cameo. Then he was balling out in AAA before the injury. Like I think he'll come back and be ready to go. And it won't take much for him to be an upgrade over what they've been getting in the outfield. And he can play all three spots. He's fast. He's got power. Like that is a spark plug there. So I'm with you. I think you got to look at the infield immediately, and that's the spot where I think that the upgrade is a no brainer. And especially in a corner spot, I think it can be a little bit easier to find someone there, maybe than a middle infield or center field spot.
Yeah, I just think that we need to get a third baseman. Like Anthony Volpe is our shortstop. He had a home run today, his first since May 16th. Like, not every position on the field is going to be an all-star, but can you be good enough in spots? Volpe at short, good with that. Glaber, like I said, Yankee fans want to get rid of him. In my opinion, if you sell him, you're not going to get anything that you would want. And then what's the option instead? Go get Jonathan India? I promise you, Yankee fans, Jonathan India and Glaber Torres, it's not going to be that different, right? It's going to be Glaber with long hair, right? It's not going to be a total upgrade here. And then if we're looking at first base, like, I'm good with Ben Rice and Anthony Rizzo. Like, whatever that combination is, I think is good enough at this point. I don't want to trade a bunch of prospects in order to get a really good first baseman, because I would need a very, very good first baseman. I don't want a pretty good first baseman, and I don't think that's worth it to do it. Catcher, Wells, Trevino. That's why I think third base is the obvious hole. I think at this point, you DFA DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah.
I think you got it.
I mean, look around the league. If Ty
Yeah.
France is getting DFA'd, I know you're eating more money with DJ, but I think you got to do it.
And DFA JD Davis too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
So who you getting at third?
So we can go two different directions here. At third base, I'd like to get two players from the Los Angeles Angels as trade package number one. And that trade package is, we're going to get Luis Rengifo, 27 years old, switch hitter, which I love for the Yankees. 126 WRC plus, 22 stolen bases. Right now, he is on the IL with a wrist injury, but has resumed baseball activities. So if you are going to trade for him in the next 5 to 6, whatever many days, he's not going to come back probably for a few weeks. He's an unrestricted free agent in 2026. He has one more year of arbitration. And to that trade, I'd like to attach Carlos Estevez. Closer for the Angels, 2.53 ERAs, coming off a season where he had a 3.9, just a really, really solid reliever. He can close if you need him to. He can also be an eighth inning guy. He's just a really good reliever to add to the fold. So you solve two issues, two birds with one stone. You get Luis Rengifo to play third. He's played most of his games. He's more of a utility guy. So you can also put him at second base. You can put him kind of wherever you want to give guys off days. Switch hitter, like I said. That's trade scenario number one. And in return, what I'd be willing to give them, we'll give them Will Warren. We'll give them Yorby Vivas. We'll give them Yoendrys Gomez. I think that's enough for these two guys. Is that not enough? I don't really know what a package would look like for Rengifo and Carlos Estevez. Again, Estevez going to be a free agent. Rengifo, a little bit of control.
If I was gonna say if the Angels are smart, but that's a silly precursor there. I was gonna say that the Red Sox reportedly are interested in Rengifo too. Drive the bidding up a little bit here. I do think that's one of those where those two guys together are going to be a sneaky, valuable package. And I think Warren's a great starting point. He's a guy that would slot right into the rotation. I wouldn't. People are probably looking at the ERA and they're like, whoa, why would we want this bomb, like 6.42 ERA. AAA has been a little bit wonky. He's had a couple brutal blow up starts, but aside from that, he's been very solid. I still think he's a solid back into the rotation arm that you can bring in there pretty quickly. Vivas, another guy that high floor, pretty close to big league ready, if not big league ready. We already saw him very briefly with the Yankees. I do think that what was the third piece that you had in there again?
Yoendrys Gomez, another pitcher.
Yeah, make it better than that guy. I need more than Yoendrys Gomez if I'm Perry Manassian. I want a little bit more than that.
Talk to me. Who else do you need?
It's tough because the Yankees have like no in between, where then you get to like Henry Lane territory. And I know he's been hurt this year, but like you're not moving that animal. He's
Yeah.
6'7" and throws strikes. It's crazy. Uh, maybe I mean, he stunk this year too. People were really excited about Kyle Carr. Has not been great this
Yeah,
year.
I was gonna add Kyle Carr, but his numbers are horrific. I
They've
mean,
been horrific this year. Selvage, probably Selvage.
too
That's where
good.
I'd go.
He's good though.
He's
Like,
fine. Yeah, he's solid.
uh, I mean, fuck it. Yeah, sure. Take him.
Because you have Renhefo for 2 years.
Yep.
You have
Estevez for
Selvage
only
might be.
3 months,
I'm struggling to value this one too. And then
right?
Estevez for 3 months. I'm trying to think like Estevez in a vacuum, like Warren would even be like,
That'd be too much for him.
yeah. I think you're close enough here. I hate Gomez, but like it's valid. I think that's good enough. I do. Because they just need arms there. And like both of those guys are slotting in the rotation. I mean, both have seen some time for the Yankees and are pretty much big league ready. So I I think that's a fair way to go there.
I was
I
also
think that's close
coming
enough.
from the direction that I feel like, for whatever reason, Perry Minasian and Artie Moreno are going to want big league pieces because they think they're going to be competing.
Yes, because it's win now always.
Yeah, exactly.
I
So,
think that's pretty good. Like the more think about it too, because Renhefo, it is only one more year after this year, and you mentioned he's banged up, and Estevez, it's just the rest of this season. Um, I think that's pretty fair, and it's not like Renhefo's some wizard defender.
no.
He's able to move around, which is
Yeah.
great, but it's not like he's. I mean, his career high in WAR is 1.7. He did back-to-back years last year. Of course, he's going to blow that out of the water this year. But at the same time, like there's always a chance that he regresses back to his career averages, which are about league average offense here. Which I know he's a lot better than that over the last 3 years. But even then, if he regresses back to that 114 or 110 WRC plus, that is diminished from the 126, and the expected stats aren't great. Yeah, actually, the more I think about it, I think you got it. I think that's perfectly fair.
I also love him for the Yankees because of the switch hitting ability, and he doesn't strike out ever.
Mm-hmm.
13% strikeout rate. He's just going to make a lot of contact. Like, I'd love to have that.
22 bags too.
Yeah,
Like I mean, adding the
exactly.
speed element. I mean, that's crazy. He had 6 last year, 6 the year before that.
And the
He
Yankees
has more
don't steal.
bags in this year than his entire career, combined prior. So, I mean, for 450 games, he has more stolen bases in 69 this year. So, there's clearly something that he's added to his game there.
Yeah, and so you factor in the speed, you factor in the switch hitting ability, you factor in the contact skills. Like, I'm okay with him not being a great defender at third because Volpe does have incredible range. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I will be okay not having elite defense over there at third. It's not like they have elite defense now.
Yeah.
I mean, the combinations of Oswaldo Cabrera, like, he's not a pure third baseman. He's a utility guy, just like Luis Renifo. DJ LeMahieu was the same thing. He was a second baseman that was converted into a utility guy. He's not really a third baseman either. And then JD Davis just isn't any good and shouldn't be on the Yankees at all. So what are we talking about here? But I have another direction that we could go to. Now, we could still trade for Carlos Estevez in a smaller deal. I want to call up Cincinnati again. I think you know where I'm coming from here.
Well, if it's not India,
No, it isn't. It's Jeimer Candelario. So this is a much more difficult one, and this is one that I kind of want to talk through because I also already contacted Clay Snowden, our Reds guy. He's a little worried about this one, but let me explain. Jeimer Candelario signed a 3-year deal for $45 million this offseason, right? So there's not a lot of precedence for trading for a guy who just signed with that team. It's not great optics for the Reds, considering other free agents may look and say, you signed Candelario and then immediately traded him. Why should I sign with you? Could also burn a bridge with that certain agent, with Jeimer Candelario's agent. I understand. But you look at the Reds situation, they already have a third baseman ready to go. Noelvi Marte, just put him at third. When Matt McClain comes back, you already have Jonathan India too, and you have Ellie De La Cruz. We could just continue to go down the line. So I know they just signed Jeimer Candelario, but it could make sense for the Reds to trade him. 112 WRC plus, switch hitter, proven player, would also really fit well with the New York Yankees. And that's a thoroughbred third baseman. Now, Clay was also telling me that you don't want him. He hasn't been very good. I understand. Let's get him in Yankee Stadium and let's see what he can do. Because he's proven that he's a good player. And last year, with no control, he was traded for DJ Hers from the Nationals and Kevin Made. Not great prospects, right? Didn't take a whole lot. Now it's going to definitely take more prospects because now he has his years of control. And 3 years, $45 million, I'll pay that contract. Put my hand up right now. I'm good paying that contract. Before I even send over players that I would send for Hammer Candelario, is this too out of the box? Do you think that there's just no chance optically the Reds would trade him? The only reason I brought it up is it's not like they signed him to be the third baseman and now they're selling and they don't have a replacement. Noelvi Marte just goes right in there and they can sell that to the fans being like, I know we signed Hammer Candelario. This season did not go according to plan. We have his replacement right here, and we feel that the prospects coming in make us better. Could that be sold to Reds fans? But there's not a lot of precedent. Clay did bring up that Jose Reyes was traded the year he signed a 3-year deal. So it has happened before.
Yeah, well, and the Marlins liquidated pretty quickly when they had that fake team in 2012.
Yeah,
with Heath Bell and Burley and Reyes and
that
all
team was
those guys.
electric.
That was it was so exciting for about 15 games, and then I just realized that team was never going to happen. But it would be out there. The only way where I would see this working is if Jamer was like, you know what, I'm cool. Like I want to go to New York. I want to go play, competitive ball games and try to make the playoffs in a big market. If that's the case, then, I think it saves a little bit of face in terms of the burning bridges and that side of it. But it does also potentially hurt them for future free agents. I do think though for the Reds, okay, this year didn't go great. Every year that you can, spend a little bit of money, and we saw them spend a little bit this year, like they would probably like to have that 15 million annually to spend on different spots next year and the year after that, because as you mentioned, they kind of have things situated in the infield. So from that lens, it could make sense. I also don't think the Reds care that much about optics. Like I get the point, but also you had the owner's son saying, where else are you going to go? Like on the radio, like the Reds, I don't think are that hell bent on optics. It would be very weird and surprising, but I don't think it's insane considering that he's a little bit of a luxury, I think, for them going into next year, especially if they keep India. I think it makes more sense for them to trade India and keep Candelario. And that's what I would do, because you get a better return for India and Candelario. You hope he has a better year next year, and you have a vet on that team. But I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility because of the way that they like to save money. And look, they don't need him that badly and going into the next 2 seasons.
If we center the package around Everson Pereira, does that make their ears perk up?
Not with him hurt right now, unfortunately. I think it's a tough sell.
What if we did Everson Pereira and Will Warren? You could take both of them.
Warren's already gone.
No, but if that's what I'm saying, if we do the Candelario trade, we're not doing the Luis Rengifo and Carlos Estevez trade.
Oh, I'd way rather do that one.
You'd rather do the Luis Rengifo and Carlos Estevez trade? Let's do that one then. Let's do that one. I had the idea of Heimer Candelario. Reds probably wouldn't do it, and it'd be very, very surprising. But I did notice that he could potentially be a piece, and I would like to do it. But let's trade for Rengifo and Carlos Estevez.
I love that.
But I want more. I want Tanner Scott from the Miami Marlins as well. So Yankees, we've already added Carlos Estevez, and we've already added Luis Rengifo. So we got third base situated, and we got a very good reliever situated. But I want to go bigger. Because if you are a little bit timid about this rotation as a Yankee fan, instead of sending a ton of prospects for a Rodon adjacent type pitcher, which you kind of already have, let's load up the bullpen. And Tanner Scott is the perfect bullpen arm for the Yankees to get. Not just because they don't have a ton of lefties, but Tanner Scott can close. So in a big time situation, you can go Scott or you can go Holmes. You probably, if I know the Yankees well as a Yankee fan, I think if they got Tanner Scott, like Clay Holmes is still the starter, still the closer. He's the all-star, even though I don't know if he should have been, but I think the Yankees still give him that role. But then you have Tanner Scott, who is as close to old Josh Hader as there is right now in Major League Baseball. It's a 100-mile-an-hour BB from the left arm at a low release height with just a devastating slider. And think about it. If you can dominate for the Marlins with that defense behind you, I think you'll do pretty well with the Yankees. And I don't think it's going to cost a lot. And, truthfully, we already talked about this conversation off air, and I offered Luis Serna and Agustin Ramirez, both lower level hitters who are both playing pretty damn well right now, especially Ramirez, catcher, infielder, does that make the deal.
Jared Serna. I don't want Luis.
Oh, my bad.
Luis,
Jared Serna.
change up
Excuse me.
merchant Luis. Both Yankees prospects though. Yeah, I think people might be expecting a more like substantial package, but I think it's a testament to the fact that Augustine Ramirez is actually good. Like that guy hits bombs and he's had a really nice season. And then also Serna has had a nice season overall too. And the Marlins really need a catcher. Tanner Scott, he's been awesome. He's a rental. And I mean, I've seen Baseball Prospectus rank Ramirez is as high, I think, is their top 50. So I don't know if I'm that bullish on him, but he is a borderline top 100 guy. Has some of the best TVs you're going to see in the upper minors. Instantly would be one of the Marlins' better bats in the upper minors, period. Even if he doesn't stick at catcher, can go to first. But again, I know the Marlins very much want some catching depth throughout their system there. And then Serna, they need middle infield depth too. He's a good piece for them. I think being able to get two guys that could profile and project into the Marlins lineup next year for a couple months of a reliever is a no-brainer. And, I think for the Yankees, those are guys, especially with the performance of Ben Rice and the other middle infielders they have, I think you're very comfortable making that move.
The Yankee fans, that's the direction I see. I see Luis Rengifo, Tanner Scott, and Carlos Estevez being added to the Yankees. Makes them a hell of a lot better, plugs a lot of holes, and makes the Yankees, I think, a World Series contender when you look at the rest of the team. All right, let's move on to the Boston Red Sox. But before we do that, a quick break. Let's preview the Boston Red Sox for this trade deadline. The Red Sox come into this episode 53-45 with a plus 37 run differential. Arm, I think they're going to buy.
I'm interested. I feel like they're going to buy, but not overly aggressive.
Yes.
I think it's going to be like this, the cautious buy that we're talking about, but I don't see any reason why they shouldn't add to the bullpen and add, a couple pieces here and there, especially when you consider the fact that they have one of the best farm systems in baseball that only got better after this draft when Braden Montgomery fell into their lap. So, I mean, this is a loaded farm, and I think they could move some second tier pieces and make this team better. So I do think they're going to add in some capacity.
I agree. And I think their needs are starting pitching. You got Tanner Houck, Nick Pivetta, Cutter Crawford, Brian Bayo. That's great. It's just not enough. I also would love for them to add a right-handed bat. Particularly, we could look at first base, but we'll talk about that. Their only righties right now are Connor Wong, Cedane Rafaela, and Tyler O'Neill. And then I also want them to bargain hunt for some relievers, potentially like I wrote down a couple of relievers, get a Lucas Sims from the Reds, John Brebbia from the White Sox, potentially Hector Neris from the Cubs, guys like that. Bargain hunting relievers, fill some depth, because the Red Sox bullpen has been pretty damn solid. I don't think they're going to need to add like a big time closer, especially when you have Kenley Jansen. But I have a couple of ways that they can get a right-handed bat for cheap. And I also have a trade for kind of a big time starting pitcher. We'll talk about it. So, right-handed bats. I think they should trade for Andrew Vaughn.
Huh.
Sounds weird, right? But listen to me for just a second. So, Andrew Vaughn, number 3 overall pick in the draft, still young, could be a reclamation project. Because I'm also thinking about the Red Sox. Like, I'm not looking for really rentals here. I'm looking for a guy that could potentially grow with them. I don't think that he's going to cost much. And maybe he's a change of scenery candidate. And I think at the worst, you got a platoon with Casas at first. And then you could slot him in the DH role against lefties and take Yoshida out, or just give guys rest. I think that's the worst that happens to him. And he could definitely hit lefties. He's much better against lefties. It's still not great, 790 OPS, but I think they'll take that. That was one idea I had. I have other options that are cheaper.
The other thing,
but I wanted to bring that one up.
You're not platooning Casas though.
Yeah, probably.
Ever. Yeah, Casas is never platooning.
No. Well, the reason I say platooning, more of Casas is playing first against a lefty and potentially Andrew Vaughn is playing DH. That's not really platooning. That's more platooning Yoshida. Yes. But I'm saying if he needs an off day too, I don't know. Thought it was interesting.
So they have Yoshida, DH.
The thing is, where's the right-handed bat going to play?
Well, you hope that Grissom comes back. You hope that I think they haven't ruled out Story coming back. So if you go get a right-handed bat, yeah, where is he playing? Grissom would play second. So that's your right-handed bat there.
But is Grissom good enough to play second over David Hamilton at this point?
I think you're hoping so. That's a platoon though, potentially too.
Yeah.
I I do agree they need right-handers, but I don't know where those right-handers would presumably play, other than potentially just moving off of Yoshida. Yeah, I think if there's a way that you're able to move off of Yoshida, I don't know how you can move that contract at this point, and then
Yeah,
plug in Grissom there or excuse me, plug in Vaughn there, like I guess. But I feel like they might just ride it out with this offense and just kind of roll with what they've got and hope that guys come back. Maybe you could go get a right-handed bench bat. Like Rob Refsnyder is already that platoon monster for you that crushes lefties as well as anybody. But maybe a infielder, like a
maybe
right-handed hitting infielder.
you could ask the Blue Jays for IKF potentially. Ask the Angels for Brandon Drury.
Drury's been terrible.
Yeah, he has been. So is Vaughn. Like, we're bargain hunting right now for right-handed bats.
Yeah, who's a
And they're not going to be expensive at all. You could also just claim Ty France.
Yeah, I actually love that.
Yeah, you could just claim Ty France.
Claim Ty France. I like that. I think he's actually a great fit for them there.
So you think you don't want to trade anything for these right-handed bats, just claim Ty France.
Claim Ty France.
Boston Red Sox were already off to a great start. Here's the one where I think they can make a splash. They need a starter. I think that is the biggest addition that they need at this deadline. And maybe this is a little bit too much. Nathan Eovaldi going from the Texas Rangers to the Boston Red Sox. And the reason I bring up Eovaldi, proven AL East performer, proven playoff performer. Eric Fetty's been floated to the Red Sox about 1 trillion times. Red Sox fans, game on the line. Who do you really want? I know who I want. Eovaldi. And Fetty might be even a little bit more expensive than Nathan Eovaldi. I don't know, because Eovaldi has a vesting option next year. Not really control. What's the deal with that? He's got like a vesting option that hits if it's like 300 innings. Does he have control or not?
I'm looking at it right now, but I actually think you're cooking on that because, I mean, just the fact that he would be back, and you remember what he did in that postseason for them, like that would be the vibes would be the vibes would be immaculate. I mean, just having him back in there, and he's been good this year.
He's been great,
and there's no reason for the Rangers to keep him because even if this season, it turns around a little bit and you finish strong down the stretch because Jacob deGrom and Tyler Mahle and all these other guys come back, then great. I don't think you're going to be like, oh, I wish we didn't move 34-year-old Nate Eovaldi, who, let's be real, double TJ guy. Like you don't know when it might give out again. I hope it never does, but it might not be a bad idea to cash in. I'm looking at this vesting option right now to try to understand what in the world it is. But yeah, it vests with 300 innings pitched across 2023 and 2024. How many innings did he pitch in 2023?
No, I don't know off the top of my head.
Oh, really? You don't know that?
Yeah, I don't, unfortunately.
I thought you would have had that one just locked in the memory bank. Nate Eovaldi innings, but pulling that up right now, just because I am curious if it is going to vest, it's probably not going to vest. So he threw 144 the year before, and he's at 99 this year. It would be pretty difficult, I think, for that to vest. So I don't know what happens if it doesn't vest or whatever that may be. Maybe they can pick it up if they want to anyways. I'm not sure, but regardless, like if he's a rental, it's even cheaper then. And you get a guy here that I think it's almost better that it doesn't vest because it's $20 million anyway. You could just give him a QO for cheaper. And if he either takes the qualifying offer or he goes elsewhere, I don't think he's ever been offered one before. And, you get the draft pick back. So I think I love that move. I really do like it because I don't think it'll cost them a ton. There's a chance that they could have him for the next year. Or if not, you don't have to give up a ton and you add a guy that's kind of a playoff hero for you.
Okay, but hold the phones. Hold the phones real quick. I think it's going to be kind of expensive. Not crazy expensive. Like, I don't think they're trading any of the top 3. But here's my offer. If I'm Chris Young and the Rangers, I would like Miguel Bleis, and we'll eat some of the money. Because I don't think the Red Sox want to take on a ton of payroll. Like, I don't think they want to pay all of Eovaldi's salary. So if the Rangers eat some of the money, they get Miguel Bleis. And I'm looking at the Red Sox right now. Like, we just watched Roman Anthony. He's a part of the future. Jarren Duran, a part of the future. Willie Abreu, a part of the future. Rafaela, is he going to play outfield? Is he going to play shortstop? Part of the future. Like, these are all really young guys. I think Bleis can be traded. And if the Rangers eat some of the money of Eovaldi's contract, a 1-for-1 swap feels good to me. And I know it's a lot for the Red Sox, but I think I'm coming to it from the standpoint of Eovaldi's got a 3.36. You're not buying low. You're buying a guy who is actively one of the better pitchers in the American League, actively proven in the American League East, actively proven in the playoffs. How many of those guys are available? Like, Eovaldi doesn't have the same name as a Verlander or a Scherzer, but damn it, he's been as productive lately. And aren't we trading for what have you done for me lately? Eovaldi is as good as those guys. And Miguel Bleis is a great prospect, don't get me wrong. But when you have so many other guys, I think that the Red Sox are in a position that they're able to do that trade, a 1-for-1. And then the Rangers eat money.
I mean, I'm lower on Bleis anyways, especially now that you have Montgomery in the fold too. Like,
yeah,
I'm cool with that, and I think it's a great change of scenery, upside play for the Rangers. I think that's totally a solid move.
I also added in potentially if they didn't want to do the Eovaldi, they could go get Tyler Anderson, Nick York, and Luis Perales. I don't even know who that is, but
Perales I like a lot. He's also on the shelf
good.
with. He's gross.
Yeah.
I don't think they moved Perales, but I think York and Fitz or somebody like that could make sense. Yeah,
Dick Fitz. We got to keep him on one team. Keeps getting traded.
Poor guy.
Also, you want another former Red Sox proven American League East performer? Go claim James Paxton.
Yeah,
you do that. Just claim Ty France and claim James Paxton, and you could call it a deadline. Now, that would be really, really lame. And I would like for them to be creative in the right-handed hitters market, and I would like for them to go get Nathan Eovaldi, but those are other options that they can do.
Yeah, I don't expect them to do anything much crazier than that because I think they're building for a sustainable future here. They've got a really good farm, and maybe next year's year where they make that big splash and cash in on some of these prospects. But that seems to be a move that makes a lot of sense for them to give it a good shot this year and add a hero that could really push them across.
So the Tampa Bay Rays, this is their trade deadline preview. This is a tough team to navigate here because I think they are potentially going to be buyers and sellers. But when I was trying to find needs for them to buy, yeah, they need a DH over Richie Palacios, but I know they weirdly like him. Yeah, they need a catcher. Then why didn't they go get one earlier? So that's why I keep saying it's like, I think the Rays just have a different plan. And I think they're just going to sell off these expiring deals, make some in the weeds type moves. And I think that's going to be it here. I think they're going to be more of a seller. But the reason I say buyer is I can't see them not adding at least weird pieces that nobody sees coming. What do you envision with the Rays?
I think they do both.
Yeah.
I think Eflin is gone.
Yep.
So they shed that salary. He's about to be so expensive. And then I think they end up adding to the offense, shedding Eflin. I would love to see them go out like a Brent Rooker, something like that, where he can fit right in at DH, could potentially play a little corner outfield if you need, and has years of control there to where I mean he's going to be an RB1 I think next year. So I mean it's still a really good spot for them to not really have to worry about paying him anytime soon, anything substantial, and then they're also shedding that Eflin money. I've seen Jeffrey Springs in AAA look like he's close to being ready, and he gets back into the rotation. They already got Shane Baz back. Littell's been throwing as well as Eflin, and Taj Bradley, as we talked about, has been one of the best pitchers out there. It sounds like they're going to be using Rasmussen as more of a reliever as he comes back, who, by the way, first appearance back after his third elbow surgery, getting the internal brace, 99 to the first batter he faced. So love seeing that from Rasmussen, but it sounds like for this year, he'll be in the bullpen. That's okay, because you're probably going to get Pepe out back at some point too.
Yep.
So I could see them just subtracting Eflin and getting prospect capital there, and then going and cashing in some prospects for a Brent Rooker potentially, or somebody like that type.
And if they were to shed offense, we're talking about a middle infield market that is pretty lean right now. What happens if they throw in an Ahmed Rosario, even a Brandon Lau in those type of deals? Like, I think that, you're going to bring up Junior Caminero anyway. You got Jose Caballero, you got Taylor Wallace, you got so many of these guys that aren't that good when you just look at the player, but for whatever reason in spots, they're kind of okay for the Rays. So I just have a weird feeling the Rays are not really going to do much. I think you're right. I think they're going to trade Eflin, but I'm thinking to myself, do I truly envision the team that gets Brent Rooker as the Tampa Bay Rays?
No.
I just can't see it. So I thought of, oh yeah, we could slot this guy. And then I'm thinking about the Rays are not going to do these deals. That's what I also wanted to bring into this episode is I'm trying to operate in the minds of a GM, not just be my own person and do something that your team's not used to. Do I think they're going to add Brent Rooker at the deadline and trade Eflin at the same? Like, no, I don't. I think they're going to trade Eflin. They'll probably trade Ahmed Rosario. And I think they're going to get some weird guy that you've barely heard of who ends up doing well for them. And I think that's their deadline.
How about like a Jesse Winker? I know they don't like the
Yeah,
rental
like
market,
that.
but sometimes they'll do it. What?
No, I said exactly. I was like something like that.
Oh yeah. That's the best. Yeah, because Rooker's going to be too expensive for them. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be their type of move. It's probably going to be more along those lines. A Winker, maybe their big splash could be say a Suzuki, but I don't think they want to pay him either.
Yeah.
So it's a tough spot. I do think they're going to add some pieces one way or another,
Mark Canha?
offensively. Like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it would be. Maybe in division they bring Justin Turner in and give it a shot. I think it's really important to note that they're going to feel like Caminero is one of the major additions for them.
Oh, yeah.
And just having him healthy, already homered the other day again.
Curtis Mead as well. I
Yeah,
know he's kind of been up and down.
he's been up and down, but is a guy that you feel like can get going for you. Yeah, I don't know exactly what the move would be, but I do think they add a bat or maybe two that aren't incredibly substantial, but I think are sneaky moves that you platoon, put in the right spots, and they end up being decent for you. But I'm with you. I don't think they do anything crazy, and I think they're more likely to trade Eflin, and then we'll see, what kind of low cost bat that they could maybe add to try to spark the offense a little bit. Maybe it's a Matt Vierling type, something like that could make some sense.
Eflin is such a St. Louis Cardinal. Such a St. Louis Cardinal.
Yeah, that checks out.
What do you think it would cost, Cardinals?
I don't think anything too crazy because he's backloaded where it's more expensive. He's having a bit of a down year. I think they could get him, for I think a pretty fair. I don't think it would take much more than a couple of top 10 guys in their system and a filler.
I agree. So I'm sorry. Like, I don't have anything else on the Rays. I think they're going to other trade pieces. Like, I just also feel I don't think they're going to trade Isaac Paredes.
No, I don't think so. It's just there's so much control still.
Yeah.
You might as well try and see what you do this year.
And I also don't think they're going to trade Randy Rosarina either. I think they're still competing right now. Like, I just don't see those guys getting dealt. I think it's good for podcasts and articles to mock those guys to places. I don't think they're going to get traded. So unfortunately, like the Rays, they can be super creative, but unfortunately, the kind of all the conclusions that I came to is I think they're going to be kind of boring.
Yeah, I think that,
which is not a bad thing.
No, and I don't like seeing a team in their position subtract, and that's why I hope that maybe if they subtract the Eflin, they might be willing to take on a little bit of money here or there. But with given the fact that they only really the most obvious area where they need to upgrade is like DH or like corner outfield type of thing, you can bargain shop there and find a guy that again, when you're talking about like Ty France, probably a good candidate to just throw in there and see how it looks. Like there's so many players that get, I think, kind of overlooked or aren't valued that much because of the lack of defensive value there, where the Rays are going to find a good bargain there somewhere and be able to plug somebody in at DH or corner outfield. That you could probably come up with a bunch of different names that would make sense there.
You could come up with hundreds, but let's move on to the Toronto Blue Jays. I think they're sellers. They come into this episode 45-54 with a -70 run differential. And if anybody has heard Ross Atkins talk lately, like very annoying. They want to compete in 2025. And my question to you, Ross Atkins, is what evidence do you have that you can compete in 2025? What's your evidence? Do you have a playoff win? Nope. Are you going to finish last this year? Yes. You could say, well, we got unlucky this year. Not really. The whole rotation's healthy. Yeah, I know you've had some injuries to the bullpen, but like Jordan Romano going down can't be the end of the season.
No.
Like I know Bo Bichette has struggled, but let's say Bo Bichette was doing really well. Like, are you a way better offense right now? Not really.
Vladdy's been great.
Vladdy's been great.
You brought up Spencer Horwitz, who's mashing. Like,
yeah.
I agree. There's been some frustrating aspects, but like nothing that I think has been totally a pure shock of like, who would have saw this coming? I mean, you kind of knew where they were at going into this year. You hoped a few things would go better. But I'm with you. Like with the way things have trended, I don't know how you could look at this team and say, oh, well, next year when Kikuchi's 34 and
Yeah.
Gosman's 34 and Bassett's 36 and Springer's 35 going on 36 and Varsho's now been bad for multiple years, that's when we're going to be good.
Yeah.
That
What?
like what? I don't see that. Like this team needs a reset, man. Like it could be an expedited reset, but I mean, this is what you're hearing is a head of baseball operations that is afraid to lose his job, and I think that's why he doesn't want to wave the white flag yet. But they're going to make him because it's just silly to pretend that this team can somehow just magically be good next year without substantial changes.
But here's my thing. Why do Bo Bichette mock trades? Why do
No,
Kevin Gausman? Why? I mean, I think we're just wasting time on air for our people. And yeah, it could make for a good TikTok. It could make for good clips for us. We're not going to tell you something that we don't believe in. Like every mock trade I went through, it was thoroughly thought through, and I think it makes sense, and I think that it's possible. Will it happen? Probably not, but they all make sense. I've already mocked Bichette. I've already mocked Gausman. I've already talked about this. We found out new information that they don't want to trade anybody with control. Okay, I'll follow your rules. Let's see what your rules look like here, Ross Atkins. You could trade Danny Jansen. Where's the fit?
Man,
Long silence for a reason. There's like no real contender who needs like a catcher.
that
Really,
bad.
I mean,
Like
I could say the
he's
Pirates.
brutal.
Pirates.
Like,
They have Joey Bart and Grandal. Like maybe they want Danny Jansen with no control.
Yeah, like no, like
No.
no.
Okay, so he's on the block. He's one of your guys who doesn't have control. Yimi Garcia will be wanted, but is hurt. Good fit, Astros. Not going to cost the Astros a ton. They have a great system anyway. You add that arm into their bullpen. Sure, you'll get a decent prospect for Yimi Garcia. Good reliever. Okay.
Same with Chad Green.
Same with Chad Green. Kikuchi also kind of feels like a Cardinal. Could be a Brewer. You're not going to get a ton for him. So
decent return, nothing crazy. Bassett, they could cash in on. I know he technically has control, but that might be a guy.
But that's the thing. I didn't include him in this because they said they aren't trading anybody with control. I even saw a quote that they were like Bichette, Gausman, like Bassett. They were naming these guys where it's like these guys have control and they said they want to win. So why would I start mocking trades for those guys?
I understand Bichette just because he's hurt. It's been such a bad year.
Selling low. I get it.
You're almost better off if he balls out next year and you stink. Like you move him then, even though it's less control, he'd probably still get you a better return at that point.
I get it.
That I get, but everybody else I don't really understand. So Turner's gone. None of these guys are moving the needle. None of them are moving the needle.
Who would want Justin Turner?
The Red Sox again.
I said the Royals, and they don't even really need him. Like Freddie Fermin is hitting better than him.
Yeah, and their backup catcher is a better hitter.
But I was just thinking maybe they want a veteran in the clubhouse. That was the only. And then I also thought about the Brewers, kind of the same thing. A veteran, like that's it. Not because of need, but because of the age of the other players on that team. That's really it. And like they could use a right-handed hitter, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, so legitimately, they're only going to move. Kikuchi will probably give them their biggest return.
Yeah.
Then you'll get some decent pieces for Garcia and Chad Green, but nothing great. And then you would take a 14-year-old lottery ticket like for Justin Turner, who signed for $10 essentially. Like you're not getting anything other than that. So Jansen, I think, is a guy that could get you sneaky return, but he's been brutal since he was great. And you mentioned it, like the market's not great for catchers. I don't know how many teams are really in the hunt that are also begging for catchers, like you said. I don't see it. Like I just don't know what moves they can make that are really going to do anything for anyone other than just bolster the farm on the back end a little bit.
I want to talk to the Blue Jays fans that are listening to this for the first time. You probably think that we're being some negative Nellies, and I get it. We are being pretty negative. And it's a result of years of trying to help the Blue Jays win. And of course, they're not going to listen to this podcast and take our advice, but it doesn't seem like there is a plan. We get very mad about the Cardinals for the same reason. It's just, what is the plan here? If there's a plan, we can get excited and we can do some trades or figure out ways and get excited about the plan, just to summarize it. But there is none. And what we have been saying before this season started, we were all down on the Blue Jays and all said that this team is the one that may have to blow it all up before this season started, when you guys were expected to potentially be a playoff team. We said that before. So it's not like, oh, cool, patting ourselves on the back, we were proven right. It's just, all right, what we saw is now happening. Now it's time to blow it up, right? Nope. Again. So that's why we're coming to you with this. Is we've done years on this podcast saying the same thing, and they won't change. Purgatory. We hate it. You hate it. Everybody hates it. But it's the reality of the situation. I could come to you with Bo Bichette mock trades. I could come to you with Kevin Gausman mock trades. You want to burn it down? I think it's the best plan of attack for you guys. And then we could get ready in 2027, 2028. I know that's a long time, but other teams have burned it down. Look where the Orioles are at right now. But staying in purgatory, pretending that you're going to contend, good luck. We'll see what happens.
I honestly think getting younger and just, I mean, a lineup built around Vladdy and even starting the year next year with Bichette.
Horwitz.
You have Davis Schneider back in there. Horwitz has been awesome. You sign one or two guys. IKF has been solid. You get the rotation a little bit younger. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but you'd be building for the future. And I don't think the team would be any worse. Like, they're at a point now where, yes, it's great on paper, and it's probably more fun to play with them on MLB The Show than it will be next year. But I think if you really look at the output that they're getting and what they could get from a younger and more invigorated offense, Addison Barger is just playing too sporadically. I still love him as a prospect. Like, they could end up being better going younger instead of just rolling out ancient players all the time, like George Springer and Justin Turner and Kevin Kiermaier. Like, if they go younger, I honestly think, even though it's going to be less talent on paper, I think they'll be better next year somehow, record-wise anyways.
In the quote from Atkins, you know the first player he named that will be available for teams to bid on? Kevin Kiermaier. You put him on waivers and then kept playing him in the lineup. What do you think you're going to get for him?
I mean, they are one of my least favorite organizations to just like follow and talk about at this point, because of the lack of direction, the way they operate in the playoffs. Their manager is frustrating. Like, everything is frustrating. So, I mean, I'm very interested to see what they do or don't do at this deadline, because maybe it's all smoke and mirrors and they'll actually make some moves. If they don't, I mean, Jays fans deserve better. It's just purgatory.
And Blue Jays fans, if you're mad at us, I'm sorry.
They're not. They're mad at Atkins.
They should be mad at Atkins, because, again, you have a plan here. If Atkins comes out with a plan, or they let Atkins go and a new GM comes in with a plan, we're full steam ahead.
Oh,
I'm Blue Jays fans. Tons of my friends are Blue Jays fans. I want you guys to be good. It's better when baseball is great in Canada. Like, did you see them in the playoffs? When the entire country comes to that game? It's unbelievably electric. It is better for baseball when the Blue Jays are good. We want the Blue Jays to be good. Do the Blue Jays want the Blue Jays to be good? That is the question I'm going to leave everybody here listening. That was the trade deadline preview for the American League East. A banger of an episode, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. And if you did, please rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, 5 stars. It's the best way to support the show. And if you could hit that subscribe button on YouTube, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Also, in the comment section, are we off base anywhere? You don't like any of the trades? Let us know. We're not perfect. We'd love to learn. I know a lot of listeners of the show are diehards, know their teams well. Let us know in the comment section. You probably already did once we said something wrong, but if you haven't yet, feel free to leave it. For Arm Lane, I'm Peter Apple. We are moving on to the next division, the American League Central. I think we're going to go after potentially the National League East. Not sure yet, but we will have a division every single day until the deadline ends. Don't forget about the National League Central Stadium Tour. Tickets in the episode description. For Arm Lane, I'm Peter Apple. We will see you tomorrow. With that, thank you, everybody.